Very much. Welcome to our Parish student gathering here at the new, soon to be new, Newman Center. I'm very excited to have such a large group of student leaders and students here tonight. It's just really, we're going to talk about that very thing, having so many people here in this crowded room. The new evangelization is happening. It's changing lives. It's changing the culture. And quite frankly, it's creating some problems. But those are some good problems to have, and that's what we're going to speak about here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jacob Pieper. I'm a second-year focused missionary here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. For those of you who do know me, hi. My name is still Jacob Pieper, and let's hang out. Let's hang out more. First person I'd like to bring out, first speaker, is Dr. Matt Hecker. He's going to be speaking about the actual theme of tonight, Do Not Be Afraid to Be Countercultural, to Change the Culture. He's the Dean of Students at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. He previously worked at Benedictine College in Atchison, where he played a key role in helping to establish the Focus program, which is now second to University of Nebraska-Lincoln. With his wife, Danielle, he has two daughters, Kathleen, who's a junior, and Anastasia, who's a sophomore here at UNL. And he's very active in supporting the Newman Center's expansion project. So if we would all please put our hands together and welcome out Dr. Hecker.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. It's fun to see some familiar faces too, whether you're UNL students and that's how we met, or several in the room I know are Pius students where we've met. Our kids have gone to Pius, and we've got a daughter over there still. Our youngest is a sophomore at Pius, and two here. And we've been very fortunate to have this opportunity. Coming from Benedictine College to the University of Nebraska, not a career move that a lot of people would make, right? They'd say, well, aren't those just very different institutions? And yes, they are. But having done both and having been here for a while, I've really very much grown to love the University of Nebraska. Not that, didn't like the others, but Nebraska is a very special place. That sign when you cross the border that there is no place like Nebraska, we've really come to appreciate that. And I'm a Colorado guy, right? Colorado guys don't move to Nebraska and say stuff like that. That's the other way around. And that's where I grew up. I'm from Denver, and I went to Colorado State University. And a quick story about that. When I was a student at Colorado State, this would have been the late 70s. And I got to campus, and I remember thinking, well, I need to figure out where the Newman Center is. And so I asked around and heard where the Newman Center was. And the following Sunday, the first Sunday I was there, I made my way over to the Newman Center. And it was a building that was nondescript in terms of church. It didn't look like a church at all. It was called the John 23rd Newman Center. And I remember walking in, and it was a sort of a semicircular area. And there were folding chairs. There was no crucifix. There were no kneelers. There were no missals. There was an overhead projector. And there was an altar, but that was about it. And then the Mass started, and the priest came in, the celebrant came up to the altar and began Mass in the way that you would usually begin Mass. But then we went to the readings, and right away I thought, well, this is odd because we're not reading Scripture. They were readings of poetry. I'm like, did I read the sign wrong? Is this the Newman Center? And I remember thinking through most of that Mass, this is not right. This is just so weird. I had never been to a Mass like that before. And I kept thinking, well, maybe this is Episcopal, or maybe it's a shared space, and I just came to the Episcopal service and not the Catholic service. And I left that thinking, well, I don't know where the Catholic Church is in Fort Collins, Colorado, but I'm going to find it. So this is the day before MapQuest and Google Map, and there was nothing like that. There was a phone book. So I looked in the phone book, and I didn't know where I was going, but I just got in my car and figured, well, Fort Collins can't be that big, and it's not. So I drove around Fort Collins until I got to roughly the area that I thought I was supposed to be in, and I drove down the street looking for something that looked like a Catholic church. And there it was. I found this, St. Joseph's Catholic Church, and I walked in and I looked around, and it's like, yeah, okay, this is it. And then I went out and I looked at the Mass times, and I memorized the Mass times, and I drove back, and I never again set foot in the Newman Center for the rest of my experience there. It was that kind of experience, on a public institution campus, Newman Center, that was really hard for me to try to accept. In other words, different era, very different time in terms of church history, post-Vatican II, and there were lots of uncertainties. So all the more reason to celebrate coming to the University of Nebraska and finding this vibrant, dynamic, holy, faithful Newman Center. And you're all a part of that, and you're here because of that. And then to see, not only is this Newman Center doing well, it's thriving beyond anything I had ever experienced myself as a student, to the point now where you've got this wonderful problem to have. You've outgrown the space. And what an exciting thing that is. And for a number of different reasons, not just because growth and numbers are good, but it's because it's genuine, authentic faithfulness. And that is exactly Pope John Paul II, Blessed Pope John Paul II's vision. That's exactly what he was talking about when he talked about the new evangelization. And that's what this represents. You're part of that, whether you know it or not, or you think about it or not, in large part because he had this focus on young people. The whole World Youth Day idea, he created that because he knew, frankly, to be honest, that my generation was pretty lost. Right? We were poorly formed in the faith. And not really anybody's fault. It just happened that way because the changes in the scope of time were very significant in that era, the late 60s, early 70s. So our parents lost track of what it meant to be Catholic because it was very uncertain at that point. So they weren't able to very effectively transmit the faith. They didn't know what it meant, really. Our Catholic institutions went through an enormous shift as we lost faithful religious to retirements and resignations and that sort of thing. So the whole fabric of Catholic education and Catholic catechism changed. So my generation was lost. And the Pope knew that. Not that he was neglecting it or ignoring it, but he knew that that was a lost generation. So he knew that's where to spend the time and the energy, here, with you. Recognizing in youth the vibrancy that would carry this new evangelization forward. And what a wonderful thing. Anybody here go to World Youth Day? Okay. Couple? Anybody World Youth Day before that at all? Okay. And what do you see? Is it drab? Is it, why did I come here? This was a long plane flight for nothing? And it's not that at all, right? It's an incredible experience. And again, the brilliance of the Pope and his vision. So what we have the opportunity to do on the campus is really be an extension of that vision. And that's where you come in. Our goal on the campaign side is to create this possibility, right? And your goal is to take advantage of that possibility. Right? This is a facility and a structure that will long, by God's grace, outlive you, outlive me, outlive your kids when they come to school here. Why do this? Can't we just be crowded? Well, yeah, we can just be crowded. But there's more to it than that. There's something very special about, obviously, St. Thomas Aquinas, right? If you know anything about the man, you know that he, he was brilliant. He was a brilliant philosopher and theologian. And Thomas had this idea that was radical at the time, right? That there were different ways of getting to the truth. One could know the truth through faith, and that was well accepted, and people may not have necessarily agreed, but they understood that that was one method of discovering the truth. The other was that you could get to truth through reason, science, reason, right? But these were considered exclusive, that faith and reason were not two pieces of the same truth. Thomas Aquinas showed that that was wrong. He said, no, it's both. The truth is achievable both through faith and through reason. And that's his greatness. You know, really, it comes down to that notion. So, using Thomas Aquinas as a model, what a great setting on a collegiate campus, right? I mean, this guy was brilliant, and he has this notion that truth can be known through faith and reason. Well, when we put a building like this at that location, what a testament that is to Thomas Aquinas. Across the street, on this very prominent corner of the University of Nebraska, sits this magnificent structure that raises the soul to God just by its inspiring architecture, because architecture does inspire. I'll let Kevin Clark talk about that notion. But it has that capacity to inspire and to stand as a wonderful witness to the strength of the faith. The strength that preceded you and preceded me by 2,000 years, and by God's grace that many years beyond. And you and I take our part in this chain of faith, right? It's your turn right now to learn, to grow, to develop the faith. It will be your turn in very short time to share and expand the faith, whether that's through your work, whether that's because you're doing missionary work, whether that's because you raise a family, or you choose to get involved in your parish when you graduate from here. You know, it's so encouraging to me to see how many of our Catholic alums are very active in their parish. How many of them are lectors and acolytes and singing in the choir and teaching the CCD classes. And it's such an inspiring thing to see how this University of Nebraska Newman Center is essentially feeding Catholic families across the state. Because that's the other thing that it's easy to forget. We're not just located in the Diocese of Lincoln. While our physical structure is here, we're not only the Diocese of Lincoln. We have all three of the Catholic dioceses of Nebraska represented here, and beyond that. So the University of Nebraska really does serve Nebraskans statewide. And the Newman Center then serves the Catholics of the University of Nebraska, which, by the way, if you didn't know, the University of Nebraska is the school of choice for Nebraska's Catholic families. It is the largest collection of Catholics on campus in the state. And part of that is, price, right? We're as a state school, we're more affordable. But part of it is just sheer numbers. Excuse me. When you have 4,000 students starting every year, and 25% of them are Catholic, it doesn't take long to see that we're the school of choice for Nebraska's Catholic families. So, thank you. Perfect. Needed that. Sorry. Spend most of the day in meetings and talking, and so by the end of the day, a little worn out. But pleasure to have the chance to visit. But let me conclude with this. Again, this structure, this vision that you see, all of that is for you. That's why all these people are working this hard to raise this money, to see this thing through to its conclusion, because they care about you and your spiritual well-being. Because connected to you is the next generation. And this thing perpetuates itself. So I hope as you sit through this, I hope as you look at these, you understand what's behind all of this. What's behind all of this is this tremendous gift of faith given to you, given to me. Haven't earned it or deserved it. We've been gifted with it. This tremendous gift of faith with the idea that you are the reason behind doing this. God is the purpose. Our faith is what drives it. But we do it for a purpose that's pragmatic, and that's you. It's a great and humbling realization, but nevertheless, an honest one. So I hope that you find in your own way a way to support this and get behind it. And if that is the power of prayer, if that's doing holy hours, or finding some way collectively or individually to support this through your own faithful expression, thank you. Whatever it may be, find a way to get behind this, get energized and excited. I can tell you the university is excited about it, because what we see here is a wonderful gift on our front door. Right? You see that kind of building, that kind of structure in one of our most prominent locations, and all of the development that will go around that. A Catholic fraternity and a Catholic sorority that are classically styled and will attract a lot of vibrant young people. This is a very wonderful thing for us. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. May you have a very good year. And I hope, again, you find a way in some part of your life to get behind and support this project. Thank you.